Namaskar and welcome to NFL Masala. I'm your co-host Sanam.
And I am your other co-host, Rakshak. Welcome to Season 4, Episode 1 of NFL Masala, where we talk about all the latest happenings in the NFL with a little bit of spice. How you doing, man?
I'm good, bro. This season's gonna be spicy.
Oh,
you guys are coming off with the Super Bowl. Everybody's trying to dethrone you.
Yep, every guess, and it's just like there's like this phrase "heavy as the crown," which is actually a Linkin Park song, one of the new ones. And you see what I'm wearing, folks? The Philadelphia Eagles are the Super Bowl 59 champs, and they come into the 2025-2026 season as defending champs, and we get to see which team will try to stop them.
Let's see if that's the Packers.
Let's see, man. Let's see.
Jordan Love MVP season incoming this year. He is loading up his shots. We're going to get the wide receivers that we need because I have hope in my system until the draft. So we'll see how that goes.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be fun for sure.
Exactly. All right, so today we will be breaking down what has happened so far in the free agency and in the start of the offseason leading up to the draft. And we're going to be then breaking down what our teams did and then what our teams need to do in terms of our draft needs. So 100%. Let's get this ball rolling, shall we?
Let's get it going, man. And first of all, before we begin, I actually want to for just a bit of a context, like yesterday, as we were discussing on what are we going to do with our schedule for NFL Masala, I just came back from this dance performance I did with the Street Sisters Dance Company. Shout out to those peeps for giving me the opportunity. Of course, let's get to it. What do we got in store, man?
We will be starting with some Dhamakedar news, as we always do on our podcasts. And boy, have we had some Dhamakedar news. We're just going to be talking about stuff that has happened this past week. So
100%. Let's get it going.
First bit, the Saints might be looking for a new quarterback. Because Derek Carr has a shoulder injury and now his season is iffy. He's looking at surgery potentially. And this could put his 2025 season in jeopardy. Not to mention, he had recently signed a 4-year, $150 million deal, and it's going to be 27 in term. It's a massive cap hit for this upcoming year, and they really don't have anybody other than Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener in terms of their QB position. So there are some rumors that are heating up that they might be interested in Shadur Sanders if Sanders falls past the Giants. And we'll do a little bit more of our breakdown during our mock draft that is going to be coming up pretty soon.
Yep.
So we shall see now.
And with that, which begs the question, Kellen Moore, why the blue hell did you decide to take the Saints head coaching position when you know that the Saints are in hell? Literally cap hell and now QB hell. I'm okay with you taking a head coach somewhere, but you pick the Saints of all teams.
Honestly, though, I think he might have an opportunity to grow Spencer Rattler into a potential starter, and that might be why he is jumping at this opportunity, or he had already jumped at this opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, I don't think the Saints need to be looking for a QB this draft. I think they need to first find, they obviously should try and trade back, but for that, they need a trade partner. And I don't think anybody's willing to move up to a non-top 3 spot, right? Because none of the quarterbacks are worth anything other than, a top 3 spot. Right, if they go past top 3, you might as well pick up some of the blue chip players that exist, especially on the D line, which a lot of teams are looking for.
And for those that are talking about the NFL draft, here's the thing: there is a stupid amount of line players, and there's a month, and this benefits NFL Masala because there's a mantra that we preach, which also how he practices. This is why he's a 2-time Super Bowl champ executive and whatnot, and that is building through the trenches.
Yep.
And to be honest, I know we'll talk about the draft in the next episode, but this QB class is mid. It is set. It is a sorry QB class.
It has maybe 2 starters, maybe 3. Potentially is a 2 potential starters and maybe 3 if you consider Jackson Dart. The rest all are just developmental players who need at least 1 to 2 years in a professional NFL system to learn more of how NFL offenses work, because they may have some of the traits like Jalen Milroe, but he needs a Jalen Hurts type of situation where he needs to go first to a good team that has good organizational fundamentals in place.
Yep.
Good offensive line, some good wide receivers, and 100%. A good GM. And obviously an offensive-minded head coach. So a surprising pick could be the Rams in the second round. That could be for Jalen Milroe.
Oh, I could see that. Oh, right? Jalen Milroe,
right?
And, Sean McVay. Oh, that would be
fun. It would be interesting to see what Sean McVay can do with an athletic freak like Jalen Milroe, instead of the prototypical passers, pocket passers that he's had to work with in Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford. So, anyways, that's more in the future. Right now, what is up next in terms of our Dhamakadar news?
All right, in terms of Dhamakadar news, we have the greatest QB of all time. The Cleveland Browns have done the right thing, and they signed up the legend, the man, the myth himself, Joe Flacco, to a 1-year, $4 million contract, according to Adam Schefter on Friday. And guess what? Well, the last time he was in Cleveland in 2023, he won the NFL Comeback Player of the Year, and he took them to the playoffs. And the contract can be worth up to $13 million with incentives. And this is a QB room with Deshaun Watson being on IR for an indefinite amount of time. I think Jameis Winston, who's now with the Giants, and now it's basically Joe Flacco and Super Bowl champion Kenny Pickett. Did you know?
Kenny Pickett incoming MVP season, everybody. Let's go.
Oh man.
Jerry Jeudy, Travis Hunter as his 2 wide receivers. Oh my God.
Oh,
mouths are salivating in Cleveland right now.
And apparently Flacco is one of the 3 quarterbacks that has a winning season with the Browns since their return, along with Brian Hoyer and Case Keenum.
Jesus Christ, man. That organization.
Dumpster fire at best.
Now they're spending what, $2.4 billion on
with a stadium
like a warehouse.
It makes no. You know what? They know they should rename that warehouse. The Factory of Sadness. Reopen the Factory of Sadness.
Or the Rust-Oleum Warehouse.
The what?
Rust-Oleum Warehouse. Because it's a museum and it's full of rust. Terrible joke. But that's what we have here at NFL Masala. Terrible jokes, terrible singing, sometimes good football takes. All right.
And sometimes curses.
Okay. Enough about the Cleveland Browns. I think they're too depressing of an organization to talk about more. We do have a retirement. Stop me if you've heard this name before. Patrick Peterson. Pat P is going to be retiring as an Arizona Cardinal this upcoming Monday, I believe, this upcoming week. He drops a 13-year career as a 5th overall pick by the Cardinals in 2011. He played 10 seasons with the Cardinal, then went to Minnesota, And then 2 seasons in Minnesota, he played for the Steelers in 2023, but did not play in 2024. And during his prime, he had 8 straight Pro Bowls with the Cardinals from his rookie year through the year 2018. And I don't know if you remember, but he was one of the top 5 corners during his prime for at least 7 years. Him, Stephon Gilmore, Jalen Ramsey early on in his career.
Oh yeah,
I mean, just
he was
dominant
good.
lockdown corners for almost the majority of his career. In terms of his stats, he's finishing with 36 interceptions in 201 career games, returning 2 of them for touchdowns. He also returned 195 punts for 1,816 yards and 4 touchdowns, all of which came during his rookie season, and 4 kickoffs for 75 yards. So, yeah, I mean, kudos to him. As a
Yep.
Viking, he definitely did have some games against us, especially during, Aaron Rodgers' MVP season in 2020 and I believe 2021 as well. So that was fun. That was those matchups between him and Devontae Adams. Those were fun to watch. And then early on in his career as a Cardinal, I think he was there when they went to the Super Bowl and they faced the Steelers, or was that after?
Patrick Peterson? I'm not 100% sure. I
I
don't
think it
even
was
think he went to the Super Bowl.
right. Yeah, because Kurt Warner, when he was with the Cardinals, they went to the Super Bowl, what, like 2008?
2008, 2008,
Yeah, okay.
2009. And then that was that bomb to Larry Fitzgerald. And then what I remember, everyone Cardinals' hopes were crushed when that Santonio Holmes tiptoe ridiculous catch.
Yeah. One of the greatest catches in all of Super Bowl history.
Yep.
But yeah, great job, Patrick P, on a really, really good career. It's going to be debatable if he gets into the Hall of Fame.
Mhm.
I just don't think he has enough of a stature to be in the Hall of Fame. Definitely not first ballot. He may
know Hall of
as a
Fame.
second or third, probably a third ballot Hall of Fame, but I don't know. It really depends on who else joins him because you still have, it took
Mhm.
Sterling Sharp, for example, like 20 years to actually get into the Hall of
Yeah.
Fame, even though he had the stats for it. But yeah, what's up next?
And last but not least, unfortunately, we have to conclude this with saddening news.
Mhm.
This was this is according to Adam Schefter and Chris Lowe on Saturday night in Houston. Former LSU wide receiver Kyron Lacey was found dead, and
Oh my God, rest in peace.
uh, um, and LSU said this in a statement. We are saddened to hear the tragic passing of former LSU football student athlete Kyron Lacey. Our thoughts and prayers go with him and his family, are with his family and loved ones, as well as his former teammates and coaches impacted by his passing. He was and of course, with news that on said December 17th, he was accused of causing a crash that killed a 78-year-old man, fleeing the scene without rendering aid or calling authorities. Jan 12th turned himself into the authorities, jailed, released on bail, and and I think like it's definitely sad, and some people are saying it could be suicide with some of the events that's happening, but which is why I'm saying, I mean, that's what I've heard on threads and whatnot, which is, I mean, if that's the case of that, please, I will say this as a proponent of mental health, please, please call me, please, reach out to any hotlines, call immediately, seek help. You're not alone in this fight. And but like with all the things that's happened with him prior to this, it's just sad to see what happened. That's all I could say. And thoughts and prayers go with him and the family. Yeah, thoughts and prayers go to his family. That's all I could say.
Yep. Alrighty. Moment of silence for Kyron Lacey.
Yeah.
All righty.
All right.
Let's move on, shall we? More about free agency, specifically what our teams did, because this was a very active free agency, as we've seen.
Yeah. And I'm very interested to see what the approach for the Green Bay Packers was.
So we had a lot of question marks, right? Specifically regarding our corner situation, having, question marks on Jair Alexander, on Eric Stokes, and a couple of our depth pieces. Then we had a couple question marks in terms of our offensive line with Josh Myers. Or do we resign him? Do we let him go? And a couple of our linebackers and defensive depth. And so we answered a significant portion of those questions. In terms of players that we had released or did not re-sign, we had TJ Slayton. He has been released. He was actually a very good run stuffer for us in key third down, especially second down situations. I was actually very surprised that we let him go. Now, it might be the fact that they're expecting Devontae Wyatt and Colby Wooden and Carl Brooks and Kenny Clark to step up and replace his role. Specifically Devontae Wyatt, since he was a first-round pick and he was going into, I believe, his fifth year. There we go, fifth year. So we shall see what they do with his contract along with Quay Walker. They're both potential fifth-year options. So yeah, we got to see if they're going to be extending them or if they just have like a minimum 1 to 2 year contract. So yeah. And then Eric Stokes, we let him go. He had a really good rookie year, and then he got injured. And that is when his downfall started, unfortunately. His career was marred, especially his second and third years. They were marred with injuries. He had a okay season last year playing outside. There was that one Vikings game where he let I believe Jordan Addison go completely unchecked. That was early on in the season before they got Jeff Hafley system acquaintanced with. So he wasn't good, but he has been signed on a 1-year deal with the Raiders. We also let go of Eric Wilson, which was actually a surprise one since Eric Wilson was a key contributor, especially on special teams. And he had a couple of great fumble recoveries. I think there's one really important fumble recovery in a game that was recovered on a kick return, I believe. So he will be missed. He signed with the Vikings, so that's fun. Josh Myers, yeah, bad pick. We had Creed Humphrey. We didn't select him. We selected Josh Myers. That might go down as one of the worst picks by Goody, especially considering who he had available, because Josh Myers, he has had also an up and down career as a center. And we thought that he was going to have a pretty decent free agency market. NFL did not think so. He only signed a 1-year contract for $2 million with the Jets, potentially a backup player. So goes down as one of the worst picks by Goody, especially when we had Creed Humphrey available. Next up, Corey Ballantyne. We also released. He was another depth corner who had a couple moments.
That was a bit of a shock for me. I thought like Corey Ballantyne, he did some good things.
He did some good things. He was also a special teamer, but in a deep CB draft like this year, we also have a lot of safeties who we can move down to corner if need be. Like Javon Bullard can be a slot corner. You got, So we'll see who wins that strong safety spot, and the others can just be rotated, especially if Jeff Hafley changes his scheme a little bit as well. And it also depends on what we do in the draft. So then we also let go of Thunder Quad's quad father, AJ Dillon, who signed with The Eagles.
The reigning, defending Super Bowl champs, the Philadelphia Eagles. We're preparing for the case the league decides to become spineless cowards and bow down to low life simple teams like the Cry Boys, which Jerry Jones in his own words thinks is an unsafe play. Sean McVay, one of the biggest cowards when it comes to decision making at the last minute, who thinks it's not a football play and it's a rugby play. Whereas Jordan Mailata, Eagles defending Super Bowl left tackle, said on the New Heights podcast that it is a valid play. And also Buffalo Bills head coach Sean McDermott, who still wants to use the reference of 9/11 to provide inspiration for his team, and is a sizable choke artist because he couldn't fill up the shoes to be the Eagles defensive coordinator under Jim Johnson, God rest his soul. And unfortunately, I have to say the Packers in this case have Matt LaFleur, who thinks it's not clean for this game.
Let me explain that situation. All right.
I need to understand about that.
No, okay.
Why
so
the Packers?
That situation. Let me explain that situation.
Tell me.
This was a argument concocted by our outgoing president, Mark Murphy. And instead of making him look like a fool, I believe both Goody and Matt LaFleur were supporting him, shall we say, in their own little ways.
You have to support him.
But also, they were the only ones with the balls or courageous enough to actually stand up for what the other cowardly teams were saying. 16 teams. That's half the NFL.
And guess what? Guess what? We're starting season 4 of NFL Masala, and I'm going on a Ruckchuck rant. Be prepared, y'all.
Before you do, there are two things that I want to mention. Most of the Packer fans disagree with what Mark Murphy said, and the tush push should be allowed. It should just be correctly called. That's the sticking point with all of us. Is the tush push should always be correctly called as an illegal play based on the formation, not based on the fact that it's a rugby play or whatever. Whenever the Eagles line up, the center and half the offensive line is clearly lined up over the ball, which is in the neutral zone, which is a neutral zone infraction, and that should be automatically a 5-yard penalty. That never gets called. That is something that has to change from the referee standpoint. And secondly, the Packers are actually one of the few teams who know how to stop the tush push and actually did so this year. So I was shocked when the Packers came up with this argument.
And the thing is, like, I remember Nick Sirianni when he was in the prick phase, he said, if you want to find a way to stop us. And you know what? As a matter of fact, don't let the Eagles get into a 3rd and 1, 4th and inches. Don't let us get into those short yard situations. And now the rest of the NFL, the teams that are supporting the ban for the tush push, they've now are calling Goodell in his own brilliance, this ineptitude man of a commissioner decides to say, we're going to table it for May. And you know what? This shows how weak, how coward, and how much of bitchiness do we have in the NFL. Half of those teams have supported it, with some exception of the Packers, because it's iffy out there.
No, you should.
No, because you know what?
We don't support
all those teams.
Teams,
you are, I'm looking at you guys directly. You are undeserving, conniving, slimy little bitches. Even if you try and ban the tush push, we're still gonna line up in that formation. And the fact is, you don't even have a QB that can squat over 500 pounds. Hell, we took the quad father. We got the quad hydra right here, man. We got Saquon, we got Jalen, we got freaking AJ Dillon when he's healthy. And And hell, if you want to show us rugby play, hell, if we draft an offensive lineman who can play a swing tackle, we'll put Jordan Mailata as a fullback and let him run through your candy asses. So try and ban it, motherfuckers. Bring it.
There you go. Not much needed to be said. We shall move on. Breaking news, actually. Breaking the market hour news.
Oh.
The Bears have extended cornerback Kyler Gordon to a 3-year, $40 million deal.
Kyler Gordon.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Decent CB2. It's not much to say about him. He's had a couple of good games.
Yep.
And yeah, highest paid slot cornerback. I don't think he is the highest paid.
I don't know
think
about
he's the best
that.
slot cornerback.
I think there's more people that are better than him.
Cooper DeJean, I could name one.
Cooper DeJean is not a safety.
Keyshawn Nixon is even better than Kyler Gordon.
But okay, yeah.
Anyways.
Anyway, moving on.
Moving on.
Yeah.
And then we lost another. Going back to who we released or let go of. Robert Rochelle, another backup corner. So really, we're making space for our draft.
Mhm.
All right. Who did we get back? And that is Christian Welch, linebacker to replace Eric Wilson. He was previously on the Packers before being released last year when he went to the Ravens, I believe, and a couple of other teams maybe. We signed him to a 1-year deal worth $1.1 million. Surprise, surprise, we found our wide receiver one.
Who?
Mecole Hardman, baby.
Mecole Hardman.
Super Bowl champion Hardman. 1 year, $1.5 million contract.
Mecole Hardman was your hard answer. Is that your final answer, good sir?
No, I think we're gonna go deep in the wide receiver market this year as well in terms of the draft, because Goody frequently does this. He doubles up sometimes in offense or in free agency and draft. Like last year, he drafted Xavier, or he didn't draft. He signed Xavier McKinney, but drafted Evan Williams and Keaton Oladipo. And a couple years before, he had signed, Preston Smith and Zadarius Smith, and later on went next year drafted LVN. So, or not next year, like a couple years later.
Yeah.
Anyways, the point stands. Another player that we got back, Isaiah McDuffie. This was a good re-signing. 2 years, $8 million. It's fine. It's perfectly fine for an off-ball linebacker.
I think he can teach in Kingsley Enagbari if he goes into that edge position, like if they play a bit of nickel, I guess.
He's not a pass rusher. He is more of an off-ball linebacker who's good at run stop situations.
But not better than Zach Bond.
Zach Bond is an all-pro. Isaiah McDuffie is better than Nakobe Dean, that's for sure.
Yeah, because Nakobe Dean's favorite spot is on IR at the moment. I mean, no offense to him though, but damn, he gets injured like a lot.
Yeah.
And when I was looking into the injury history, man, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if he's not even going to make it to the first start of the season because how brutal it is.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, hopefully he gets better, but I just got to see for myself.
Alrighty. And then we also re-signed Brandon McManus to a 3-year, $15.3 million contract extension. He solved our kicker woes that we've been having for about 2 years. We re-signed him. He's good. We needed to re-sign him because I don't think I could have went on to another game without a proper kicker in Green Bay. This is after Mason Crosby retiring this year, officially setting his retirement as a Packers kicker. Probably will go in the Packers Hall of Fame. So the Silver Fox, has officially hung up his cleats. That's his nickname, Silver Fox.
Mason
Crosby. Mason Crosby.
Okay.
All right. Now our two big signings before I finish off with my final grades.
Sure.
Nate Hobbs, corner.
That was a good one. 4-year,
$48 million contract. it's not actually that bad as it seems. I believe if we dive deep into his contract details.
He plays outside, right?
Well, he plays slot, but he can play outside. Let's see. Did we get where is our all right, so only $16 million guaranteed at signing. So a potential is next year after giving $18 million, $18.2 million. And then now the other controversial signing was Aaron Banks to be our starting guard for the future. 4 years, $77 million. That's a very, very high price for a decent guard who's had some troubles in terms of allowing some powerful pass rushers to get by him. Only $27 million guaranteed at signing and a potential 1 year out as well. So these are incredible team-friendly deals, which is what the Packers typically give and offer, just like how with the Eagles offer a lot of team-friendly deals that don't necessarily reset the market, right? So, the Packers have ways of maneuvering the cap, and it seems like on the outset that this is a very, very pricey contract, but especially if I look at the position rankings. 1 second. If this is ever going to load. All right, there we go. Cap rankings, offensive line. All right. Wait, hold up. Cash rankings. That's what we wanted. Wait. All right. Got it. All right. Oh, this is team. Hold up. Anyways, that's besides the point right now. It is a high. It's a pricey contract, especially given the caliber of a player that he is on the outset. But it is a team friendly contract once you dig into the details. That's what I wanted to say. So overall, we did get good players. We still haven't solved a lot of the issues that we're facing, especially during that Eagles game. What that showed, a lot of the flaws really that the Packers had on the young roster was facing. And I'll get into that once we talk about the draft needs. But so far, it's good. It's setting up for the future with our Banks. It is setting up with competition in Nate Hobbs. It's, it still doesn't give us an answer on Jair Alexander, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So overall, I think it was a B+. A lot of people, especially draft analysts who are not, Green Bay media personnel, gave this a very, very bad free agency rating and like C or C- or B or something like that. I really don't think that they looked at it from a Packer standpoint and what the Packers want from their players.
Yeah.
Right? Because, almost all of Goody's big free agent signings have been hits. You look at the Smith brothers in his first season, they went on to become all pros, right? You look at, oh my God, Devondre Campbell, all pro season.
And what happened with him right now? You know what? I want to try, and it's been a while since I did this, but let's make a Devondre Campbell bet or the odds. Yeah, what are the odds of Devondre Campbell signing with an NFL team this season? What are the odds on this one?
I don't know. I give it 20-1.
20-1.
Yeah.
I'm definitely taking the over. This will take a while.
Yeah. So you look at some of the big signings that Goody's had, they've almost always been successes. Smith brothers, you look at last year, right? Josh Jacobs and Xavier McKinney. Who else did we get? Rasul Douglas was a really good pickup for us. So, yeah. So overall, pretty decent free agency. I would give it a B plus, and I'm excited to see what we do in the draft. If we go the typical Goody route, I may not be so happy. Hopefully, we get a couple of players that we really need.
Yeah.
All right. What about you?
All
guys?
right. So for my Eagles, first things first, we know that Brandon Graham has decided to hang up and retire. Ends his career as a multiple Pro Bowl and 2-time Super Bowl champ. And wishing him nothing but the best. And now with Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, I want to say, and Rick Lovato being gone, Lane Johnson and Jake Elliott are the only two members of the 2017 Philadelphia Eagles team that won the Super Bowl. They're the only members from what I remember, from what I think.
Jesus. Wow.
And with that being said, so there are two bit. I think like for Howie, knowing how the cap was going to be played and manipulated, Howie Roseman says we have future contracts coming up. Like, what are we going to do with Jordan Davis? Do we activate his 5th-year option? We also have to pay up with Jalen Carter. I don't know about AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, although we got extensions out of the way. And I was also surprised, like, okay, what about Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, and even Maro Aljamo, who your guy from UT, who apparently is I think honestly, dude, I think Jordan Davis is in danger of losing his starting position to Maro Aljamo.
Who?
Jordan Davis. Who's
wow.
Like, no, because from what I'm hearing, like Davis, although he's been having like some limited snaps, and Aljamo's been taking a lot of it, and it's like looking to see how the market is. There was no chance that we were going to spend try and keep a ton of our Super Bowl champion roster, and and of course, you're gonna lose some players. It's how you can bounce back, and that's what the approach Howie Roseman did. You can't pay it all. You may go with the cheap 1-year contract, prove-it deals, and see what you could do. But you also not only getting good, valuable talent that was drafted high and did well, but also you're focusing more on the youth because you want your roster to get younger and possibly open up that window for the Super Bowl to either defend it or I'm going to say this: the Eagles are not going to repeat this upcoming year. There's no chance in hell because other teams are doing they're already proactive in what they want to do. The Eagles are not going to repeat. I'm going to say it right off the bat. They may try it again the following season, but not this time. And I'm being honest with you. And it's okay. I can live with it. And with that, Eagles did two things. And I thought these were brilliant. Number one, they extended linebacker Zach Bond for a 3-year, $51 million deal. I was very happy that he was staying because the Eagles needed linebacker, and especially Nakobe Dean being on IR. And you're not sure about Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Is he going to be outside linebacker, or is he going to be an edge, or is he going to stick to an edge like he's done in Clemson? What are you going to do? And I think Zach Bond being there works a lot. And running back Saquon Barkley also added another 2-year extension, 2-year, $41.2 million deal. So he'll be here for a good 4 years. So Bond and Barkley, two integral parts of this championship team, really helps out. And now, I'm going to go through the list. But you probably know what I'm going to say for the signed free agents. The Eagles were only able to do it, and I'm going to summarize it, all 1-year deals. I'm not going to specify the amount because they were super cheap. With that being said, let's get started. They were able to grab Terrence Marshall Jr. from the Panthers. I know it's an undisclosed contract, but for a second-round draft pick, I think you pair him up you put him in a competitive wide receiver room with AJ, Devontae, and maybe Jahan Dotson. I think it'd be a good camp battle, but I would not be surprised if Howie decides to go wide receiver in the draft. And then they were able to get they were able to re-sign Matt Pryor, backup guard, Kendall Lamb, right tackle, I don't know where, but I know that he's a good deep depth piece. And then these were some good. Then they also brought back an old familiar draft pick in Patrick Johnson, outside linebacker and edge. They were able to get Avery Williams, running back, who can also be a special teamer. Kyle Granson, backup tight end, and Harrison Bryant, tight end. And then these three were, I mean, of course, other than the AJ Dillon signing, I thought that was like, this is new. This is what I also found out. They were able to get 2 or 3 players from the Giants. Again, Giants, why do you do this for us? We were able to grab Azeez Ojulari, outside linebacker from Georgia.
That was someone that I was really hoping that we targeted in the offseason.
From freaking Georgia, who actually played with Nakobe Dean, Nolan Smith, Jordan Davis, and Jalen Carter. I'm like, what the hell is the Georgia guy? What the hell is it with Eagles?
You're just building the Georgia defensive line. I would not be shocked if you guys get Mykel Williams in the first round.
Mykel Williams or Malachi Starks. If that were to happen, I'm like, I'm gonna lose it.
Yeah.
Not only that, we were able to get a good backup cornerback in Adoree Jackson. Although there's a bit of an age, I think he could provide a good veteran piece. Because I'll tell you about who our departures were. Josh Uche, outside linebacker from the Patriots, who was also defensive end. I think these are pretty good signings and more adding towards the depth piece on the defensive edge side. Because, I mean, you're pairing with Nolan Smith, and Jalix Hunt. And then you're adding in Patrick Johnson, Josh Uche, and then you don't know about Bryce Huff, who's been a complete freaking bust. And then, of course, but Azeez Ojulari, I did not see that coming at all. And Charlie Huglet, long snapper. So I'm like, oh, okay, interesting. So I'm guessing Rick Lovato is no longer there. And I think that was like, and AJ Dillon, I like this one. But then here are some of the teams that got released. Darius Slay, opposite to Quinyon Mitchell. He signed a 1-year, $10 million 10-year plus contract with the Steelers. So he's still in Pennsylvania, but he's going to Pittsburgh. Cornerback James Bradbury is released. I'm like, thank God for him. But although he was a good mentor. Wide receiver Paris Campbell went to the Cowboys. And then these were a couple of big ones. Josh Sweat, the 4-year, $76.5 million deal to the Cardinals. So I'm like, yeah, Howie isn't going to pay that much, which is unfortunate. Milton Williams, edge, to the Patriots for a 4-year, $104 million deal. I'm like, I don't know if that's over
contract.
I think that's good I'm happy for Milton Williams and Josh Sweat, but they were only able to benefit because Jalen Carter took a lot of the double teams. Oh, that's how Milton Williams was able to attack, and Joshua was able to attack as well. So I'm like, it's one of those high risk, high rewards. And Mekhi Becton, I'm really happy for him. He's able to get a starting position with the Chargers, offensive guard, 2-year, $20 million. And these two ones I was pretty upset with. Isaiah Rodgers, cornerback, Vikings. He goes to the Vikings for 2-year, $11.5. I thought Howie Roseman would either keep Slay or Rodgers because you still need a good, sizable veteran position who can also be a good starter and help out with Quinyon Mitchell. And Oren Burks, who did pretty well. And I'm like, why didn't you keep him? But and his contract was 2-year, $5 million with the Bengals. I'm like, you could have easily done that. But then again, it's Howie Roseman, and he does not do well with linebackers apparently. But these picks, when I saw the trades, this is what really pissed me off. First of all, I mean the Kenny Pickett to the Browns for quarterback Dorian Thompson-Robinson in a 2025 5th-round pick. I get that. But this one really upsetted me because I hated it. We traded with the Eagles traded with the Houston Texans. They got offensive tackle Kenyon Green, who was a former 1st-round pick in that 2019 draft, and a 2026 5th-round pick in exchange for a 6th-round pick of 2026 and Star safety Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, I was screaming my head off. I'm like, why the fuck would you do that? We originally signed him for a 3-year, $20-something million contract. Why did you decide to trade him away? I get Reed Blankenship is good, but are you seriously going to put your trust in Sidney Brown, who's been mid, Lewis Seen, who's from Georgia and part of that team, but he's still recovering from injury, and a scrub and Tristan McCullum? Good God.
That could be a boon for offenses in the NFC if you guys don't solve your safety issues at this point.
And there's rumors that, oh my goodness, June 1st we may get Justin Simmons. I'm like, yeah, but CJGJ was the heart and the soul of this Eagles defense. Yes, he had a late start and to begin with, but as the season got along and along, it fits so well, and it makes no fucking sense. And I mean, that's all I could say, man. It's very irksome. And yeah, Lane Johnson, he got re-signed to, I believe it was a 3-year, $40 million contract.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm giving it a B- C+ at best, because we kind of understood what Howie Roseman's mentality was going, especially with the cheap contracts, the 1-year prove-it deals, while you're trying to save enough money to pay the main stars. But giving away Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, I want to see what Howie Roseman is going to do. Is he going to address it in the draft? You get someone like, we'll talk about that later for like draft needs and whatnot, but it's like, I didn't like that. I didn't like that move at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, not everything that Howie Roseman touches turns to gold. So I guess in this situation, he kind of messed up.
I think he messed up on that one, but I mean, prove us wrong. That's all I can say.
All righty. So that's it in terms of the free agency. Let's talk about what our teams need to do in the upcoming NFL draft. Starting with the Packers, shall we?
Yep.
Glaring weakness. Our wide receiver. Wide receiver room. We need a prototypical clear X receiver. We don't need to have a wide receiver 1. We just need this role thought out.
I got two names for you.
Yeah. AJ Brown and Devontae Smith.
Oh no, not that. No, I was talking about draft needs for you guys.
Yeah. So we'll get.
I was thinking someone like, I honestly think, as much as Matthew Golden is good, I believe the number 1 wide receiver is Emeka Egbuka.
Over Ted McMillan, Travis.
Oh no. I mean, like
Luther Burden.
No, I would say Egbuka has the experience. He's a good, solid route runner. He has the top speed, and he's fit in an Ohio State system with great offense. Yes, and he's played in tougher divisions, like especially in the Big Ten conference. And I think with that resume, and hell, he's a defending champion. So I'd say he's your best fit.
So I will talk about that. Yeah, I will talk about that. But as you said, Emeka Egbuka is probably our best target, and he is, finger crossed, my number 1 target in the late first round, if he survives till there. But be mindful that the Chargers pick right before us.
Oh yeah,
they also have a desperate need at starting wide receiver as well.
I think with either Golden or Egbuka are there, and the Chargers take either one of them, I think you're still in a good spot.
Hopefully,
because you get one of them, you're pretty much safe.
Yeah. But the reason why we need a wide receiver is because in 2026, so after the following season, right after this upcoming season ends, we only have 2 wide receivers on our roster, Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks. So we need to figure out if Christian Watson can still play, That's number one, right? His injury is going to really, really haunt the Packers early on in the season because he's only going to be able to come in late 2025, and we don't know the long-term status of his injury.
Mhm.
And because of Watson, we don't have a clear wide receiver, X receiver that we clearly saw in the Eagles game after the Eagles game. After Watson, Reed, and Dobbs went down, right? Wicks needs to improve in terms of his catching ability. He has all the separation ability of a top 10 receiver, but he just
Mhm.
cannot catch the ball. Which, if he can figure out, then I don't think we have a problem at the X position because he can move there. But that is something that we need to target. So, like you said, we have a couple of big targets in mind, right? Emeka Egbuka in the late first round, Matthew Golden, and I want to throw another name in, Jaden Higgins.
Jaden Higgins.
Jaden Higgins out of Iowa State. That is somebody that a lot of Packers media personnel and Packers fans have also looked into. If you were to take a look at what is
Oh, from Iowa State Cyclones. Okay.
Iowa State. Yeah.
Big 12.
He's got all the size requirements that the Packers are looking into, right? And if you also want to look at so he has a 9.87 RAS at 6'4", 214. He ran 4.47 40 and a 39-inch vertical. And if you think that he's just an athletic freak, he has the production to put into to actually state that he's a top wide receiver prospect, a round one wide receiver prospect. He led the entire nation in PFF receiving grade. He was 7th best versus man and 2nd versus zone, and he was 19th in contested catches. All right. And then if you look at some of his other stats, let me bring it up. 29% of his targets were on go routes this last year, which means he is a deep threat, right? He has a 3% drop rate, which is our biggest issue is our receivers cannot catch the ball, right? And it was only Christian Watson who was our main deep threat who could actually pose as a threat for other, receivers, other defenses who could actually catch the ball. But Jaden Higgins has a 56% contested catch rate. He's a blocker. He has a career of 3,309 yards and 28 touchdowns in his career. Do you know what his athletic comp is?
Who?
Here is another receiver who is in the NFL, who is a top 10 receiver in the NFL. He is 6'4", weighs 215. He has a 4.45 40-yard dash, a 37.5-inch vertical, and an overall 9.61 RAS score. His name is Nico Collins.
Ooh.
So
Nico.
Jaden Higgins is a Nico Collins comp, specifically from my from a specifically from a athletic standpoint, but also in terms of production and in terms of how he is attacking at the catch point. He resembles a lot of Nico Collins, especially if you look at it at the tape. And that is someone that I believe we should have drafted in 2021. We didn't do. And now we have the chance to rectify that mistake. So I would love if the Packers, Brian Gutekunst has not been shy in saying that he might, trade out of the first round if things don't fall their way, even if, the draft is in Green Bay. So he might be like a Christian Watson situation where we trade up in the second round and get him. We might trade down to like the Buffalo Bills spot or the Eagle spot or someone like that. If you guys want to move up for a pass rusher or someone. So I think that is somebody that we really, really should target as our X receiver. Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
All right. Next up. 1 second. All right. Defensive line. Sadly, my prognostication has failed from last year. We need both defensive tackle and edge help because we've had lackluster production from our big name guys in Kenny Clark and Rashawn Gary and see no progress from LVN. So maybe it was our pass rush coach. So maybe the new one that we got is probably going to help us. But the problem is, like I had mentioned, we lost some depth in free agency, especially TJ Slayton. And we haven't seen a lot of consistent production amongst our young players that they can, potentially replace Kenny Clark and Rashawn Gary next year or the year after. Because both Clark and Gary have their contracts expire at the end of 2027, but they potentially have an out next year. So we need Devontae Wyatt and LVN to step up. So we should target to provide support, even though Goody has said, we're going to stick with our 4-man fronts. We're going to stick with our existing personnel and see what they can do. I don't think he's that stupid or blind or egotistical to assume that we're actually going to be fine with just the current personnel, because we need to get a productive, bendy edge or a powerful interior D tackle who's a larger person. So, to partner with LVN and Enigbare or Kenny Clark for the future. So in terms of edge, in the first round, I would love to target Donovan Ezuraku, specifically because he worked for Jeff Hafley at Boston College. Right? He was coached by Jeff Hafley at Boston College, so we have that link. And there are rumors, especially from the Packers media, that Jeff Hafley has been pounding the table for Donovan Ezuraku in the first round. So we'll see how that goes. James Pierce as a bendy speed rusher on the edge. Two things that are wrong with this comp, especially from a Packer standpoint. One, his character concerns. He is going through, I believe, like a domestic issue. And then two, his size constraints. Packers typically look at a threshold of like 6'4" and more specifically their weight of like 265 plus. They don't typically draft or sign lighter edges. They typically go for the heavier ones. So that is potentially a first round target, but maybe not a Packers pick. And then Oluwafemi Oladejo. I'm so sorry if I butchered this name. In the second.
Olufemi Oladejo.
Yeah, Olufemi Oladejo. A really talented pass rusher out of UCLA. He's got some good production, so that definitely helps. And then in terms of D tackle, there's a lot of hype for Walter Nolan or Derek Harmon in the first round. I've seen a lot of Packers media personnel been trying to push those two players in the first round at pick 23, or Tyleik Williams in the second round. I think that he would be a good replacement for TJ Slayton, especially since Tyleik Williams is on the bigger side of his of the frame of a D tackle perspective. So that could be some good targets in the first couple of rounds. I think they target defensive players in the first couple of rounds. They might go edge or corner if the right one falls, and I'll get into this in a little bit in the second round, or wide receiver. But I think with the first two picks, they're probably going to be going D tackle or edge, and then wide receiver in the second round, and then try and fill up with the rest with offensive line, and I'll get into this a little bit. So in terms of corners, another defensive position that we need some depth in, because we have a lot of good slot corners. Nate Hobbs, Keyshawn Nixon. We don't know what Ja Money is. We don't know his situation. He has a pretty significant cap hit. that we would have to take if we continue with him. So maybe they restructure his deal and put in some injury guarantees. We did earn, I think, $350,000 or so, somewhere around that, in insurance based off of Jamani's injury this past season. So that could, potentially prove a factor in his trade potential. He might get traded on draft day. He might get traded after draft day. He might be released post June 1. We just don't know the situation. The Packers are keeping that situation very close to their vest. So we honestly don't know what's going to be happening with Jamani. If he does get traded, I don't think it's going to be anything more than a third or second round pick, because when he's healthy, he is a top 5 corner in the league. But that's the thing. When he's healthy, I don't know if any team is willing to take the risk on his health by giving up a higher pick when they could draft a young player to replace their starting corner concerns. And I'll get into this because, Jamani is a fantastic corner, but he needs to stay healthy. So I think what happens is he stays in Green Bay. They figure out a restructured contract. He stays in Green Bay, and we push the can down the road. Because we need him more than other teams need him.
Fair enough, yeah.
Harrington Valentine is our only true outside corner. And unless, Nate Hobbs or Keyshawn Nixon are willing to transition to the outside. Keyshawn Nixon did have some snaps on the outside. He was decent. I don't know if that's a long-term solution. So we shall see. Now, in terms of corners that we should target, I think there are a lot in the first round and early second round that we should really target, because that's where the talent has bunched up right now in terms of corners. It's really just like last year where you had, Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean and Kool-Aid McKinstry and all of these corners who were picked up in in the 20 picks from 25 till 40 or 45. That was the range of all of these talented corners that were drafted. And I think a similar situation is going to happen, because you got Savon Ravel, who is my personal favorite, a really, really good starting corner. He's got some good production. I'm going to dive deep into this during our mock draft as well. Trey Amos, he's the tallest one out of the targets that I have. He's 6'4" or something. Then potentially an early second round trade up would be Benjamin Morrison, Maxwell Hairston, who's a speed freak, which Goody really likes, a la Eric Stokes. Azariah Thomas, he's on the lighter end, slightly shorter than all of the others, but he's also a really talented outside corner. I think he has a couple of injury concerns, but we shall see. And then late second, early third round selections, I would be interested in Darian Porter. He's on the heavier side. I think he's 6'4", 200 or something. He's pretty good. And then Zy Alexander out of LSU. So those are some good corners, outside corners, that I think we should target. And then lastly, our offensive line. Offensive line is always an issue. It's always a need. Good teams will always draft offensive line, because you never know, unless you have a top 10 offensive lineman on your team, you can always get depth and backup, as we've seen, right? So honestly, there are major future concerns. We don't know who our tackles are for the future. We have Zach Tom and Rasheed Walker, who are our existing tackles, who are going to be entering their last year. Neither of them are going to be on the Packers roster in 2026. Both are going to be very expensive to maintain. So we probably need to select one or the other. The only solidified future starters we have is Elton Jenkins, who is a pricey veteran as guard or center, Aaron Banks, who is a pricey guard, on face value. And then our first round pick in Jordan Morgan, who has been injured, and we have seen very little of him. Is he going to be a left tackle? Is he going to be a left guard? What is the situation with him? Right. So we need to see what he does this upcoming year. They're currently placing him as they'll probably rotate him out with Rashid Walker as our left tackle, or Sean Ryan as one of our guards, because right now our starting current line is Rashid Walker left tackle, Aaron Banks, or Jordan Morgan. Actually, Aaron Banks is going to be there. Elton Jenkins, I think he's been confirmed to move to center. Sean Ryan or Jordan Morgan, and then Zach Tom. So we'll see how that goes, because we need depth. we sorely need depth. We saw this in the Eagles game when the lack of depth showed up, and Jordan Love just got constantly destroyed in the backfield. So I think we definitely need to draft depth, but we also need to draft for the future, and that's what the Packers are really going to target in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds, which they're really good at, right? Zach Tom is a 4th rounder. Elton Jenkins is a 2nd rounder. Rashid Walker is a 7th rounder, right? So they're really good at finding talent deep down the draft boards and in day 2 and day 3. And so a couple of one potential day 2 target that I saw was Caleb Rogers out of your place in Texas Tech.
He's like I've seen Caleb Rogers' tape. He's pretty good, but sometimes he can be a bit inconsistent. And I think like in a proper pro system like with the Packers, he could definitely develop for sure. Exactly.
He's a potential guard / tackle, so he's got really good positional flexibility. Like you said, he's really powerful. He's really strong. He's flexible, but sometimes his length is an issue. He might get, might get stiff a little bit, especially when facing power rushers. So that's if you have a good offensive line coach like the Packers do, like the Eagles do, then that could be corrected. So that could be someone that we target in either the 3rd or 4th rounds. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Our number 1 target should be wide receiver in the 1st round. Are we actually going to do it? I don't know.
Probably
It entirely depends on who we have at edge, because if we have one of their top edge prospects, or like if there's Donovan Ezraku at 23 or Walter Nolan at 23, I think he pulls the plug. I think Goody pulls the plug, and we see what we can do in the 2nd round for a wide receiver. If they're both gone, if none of our top edge or D tackle prospects are there, then they might go with wide receiver. I don't think they do corner in the 1st round. We shall see. It entirely depends on who's available. But yeah, that's it from my side.
All right. And for the Eagles, first things first, we got to do the lines, because that's what Harry Roseman will always do. Defensive line, especially with Milton Williams and Joshua being gone. The strength is basically the Eagles' strength that we know is that defensive line depth. When Jordan Davis, we're still waiting for him to get that explosive step. But while he's going at it, Mar Aljamo and Thomas Booker are only providing, so we need to drop from there. I'm thinking, and especially with Josh Sweat being being gone, and you're focusing mainly with Nakobe Dean, Jelix Hunt, and yes, you brought in Josh Uche and Aziz Ojulari. Bryce Hubb being there is just a pain in the ass. So it's like, do you want to trade him away or whatnot? But I would say if you're looking at interior defensive line, I'm looking someone mainly like a Walter Nolan or Derek Harmon. There are rumors that Howie Roseman may trade up. So the thing is, we don't know what he's going to do with the 32nd pick. He could literally stay there. He could go up to get one of those star players if he sees a player that's falling at the low 20s. But what he'll actually do, he's going to trade out of the 32nd pick and go back accumulate more picks for rounds 2 and 3 in future rounds.
I
Even for
agree.
those that want to get a Jackson Dart with round 30, with pick number 32.
I agree. Or
It's gonna,
Jalen Milrow, right? You look at
yeah,
teams who might pass on a quarterback in the first round, but who would probably need it at the late first round, like the Saints or the Raiders, potentially the Giants if the Browns go QB in pick 2. But yeah, I agree.
yeah. And then I'm looking at some guys like again, I was talking about Walter Nolan, Derek Harmon. I do like Darius Alexander from Toledo, aka the one who played with Quinyon Mitchell. Shamar Turner, whom I saw him with a pre-draft visit, and Tyreek Williams. I also like that and I also do like Mikhail Williams from Georgia. So maybe you add in more. You may convert the entire Eagles defensive. It's like they look at your qualifications. So what makes you qualify for this? Oh, let's see. I went to Georgia. Sign this man. I honestly think if that's how they're gonna do it, I'm like, oh, what the hell not? But then again, like for edge, I'm looking at someone like a Nick Scarton who makes sense at 32nd. I also looked at James Pierce Jr. I've seen a lot of mock drafts of the Eagles getting James Pierce Jr. from Tennessee. I mean, he's okay. Donovan Ezeraku had himself I think he had a pre-draft visit. Jared Ivey, and I also do like those two from Ohio State, Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau, as good late round picks. And hell, Josiah Stewart from Michigan. And then there's also Oluwafemi Oladejo. That could be someone. I think the Eagles brought him for another pre-draft visit. So it's like Howie Roseman is doing his due diligence. So I'm just good. And then for offensive line, I think the main crucial part is you need to look for especially the right tackle and the right guard positions. Lane Johnson, we don't know when he's going to hang up his cleats, but it's going to be soon. With Mekhi Becton being gone, you're literally trusting Tyler Steen to take over. Tyler Steen or Kenyon Green, not looking too good at the moment. And with Jordan Mailata being gone, Fred Johnson was already out. So I'm like, and Trevor Keegan, there's a depth piece. And yes, you may have gotten Matt Pryor back, and Jack Driscoll, Jess Statland wants more. So maybe you go offensive tackle, offensive guard, maybe on the right side in a little bit. Just build up a battle. I do like some people like Jalen Travis, Anthony Belton. Apparently Charles Grant and Donovan Jackson had some visits. And of course, another name from Georgia, Dylan Fairchild or Tate Rutledge. I'm like, oh, gee. You know what? We already know this is going to happen, but I will be very shocked if the Eagles do not get a Georgia player in this draft. And I'm like, oh, I agree. And then, of course, I'm going to say this, linebacker. That needs to be addressed because I highly doubt it unless Howie pulls off a surprise. Because, like last year, when we said, like, oh, Eagles are not going to take a cornerback, they haven't done it since Lito Shepherd. Howie Roseman was able to go against the mold, and he got Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean back-to-back. So, I'm saying this. If Jalen Walker's already going to be taken ahead. And maybe you look at someone like Jihad Campbell, Demetrius Knight Jr., Danny Stutzman, Smail Mondon Jr., Jack Kaiser. And I've heard a lot about like Teddy Buchanan or that the Thomas Eichen. Oh, no. So I forget who the other UCLA guy is, but he had a long name. Let me pull it. I'm trying to pull up the draft home. 8 minute, people. 1 minute. Okay. Combine is not helping me at all. But yeah, I think and maybe you take a Jack Kaiser from Notre Dame. Maybe that could be someone you could look into.
In D lineman or linebacker?
Linebacker.
Oh, Carson Schwessinger.
Schwessinger, that's the guy. And I'm like, I don't know about Schwessinger. His tape is okay, but I don't know if it'll fit that Fangio scheme. And then some people are saying, oh, you maybe get Chris Paul Jr., Barrett Carter, and Danny Stutzman. Or no, I mentioned Danny Stutzman. Hell, some guys are saying, hey, get Jeffrey Bassa or Kobe King from Penn State. So you have like a ton of options to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I swear to God, if somehow Jihad Campbell falls to you guys at 30,
if he falls to 32,
I will riot. I will burn down Green Bay Pavilion at that point.
dude, Jihad Campbell's going to be taken early. I'll be
Huh?
very sure. Jihad Campbell's going to be taken early.
Yeah, I know.
If he falls to 32, I'd be shocked. And then defensive back, I would look at both safety and corner. Slay and Bradbury and CJGG being gone, you need more depth. And I'm happy with Quinyon. I mean, with Keely Ringo, we have to see if he's going to play the starter position. Yes, Dory Jackson, if he takes over, it's going to be uncertain about for Keely Ringo. And Cooper DeJean, a big fan just stressed that he wants to see him in the slot always. So I'm happy with that. Lewis Sean being there, okay, but very shaky safety room. So a couple of thoughts I had for the safety position. Maybe you look at fellow Georgia guy, Malachi Starks, Nick Emmanwori. And I'll say this, even if you have a great combine, we need to see the game tape and to see if it fits in the scheme. So a lot of people are saying, hey, maybe try and look at Nick Emmanwori. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if it's really going to work out that well. You know what I mean? And then Xavier Watts, who I think is a good pickup, would be a good decent pickup in round 2 if he's still there. Or your boy Andrew Makuba, from UT. I mean, him being like a thumper and whatnot. I mean, I would not be surprised by that. And if I'm looking at safeties only according to NFL Draft Buzz, Nick Emmanwori and Malachi Starks are like battle for like 1 and 2. Xavier Watts, Andrew Makuba. Then some people saying Sebastian Castro, Kevin Winston Jr. Apparently Jalen Reed from Penn State paid a visit. So it's like maybe look at those local connections. And if I'm looking at a late corner, here's someone I would try and look into, someone like a Trey Amos. I've heard some rumors about that, or Kobe Bryant, Kobe Bryant, yeah. There's only one Black Mamba, man. Stop confusing me.
Yeah.
And apparently some people are saying like, hey, Jahdae Barron would be like your best bet. I'm like, dude, Jahdae Barron's going to be taken early. And Siobhan Ravel and Benjamin Morrison, if they fall down, maybe you go and say, hey, let's go again on corner like we did last time and go with that. Maybe
who would play safety at that point?
Yeah, and apparently Jahdae Brown could be like, I think he could play like anywhere on the field. He could play outside, he could play inside, and apparently that's what I've heard, that he could also play like in a defensive back position. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe you try and target someone, you get someone like Trey Amos in the late rounds, or that Zoff Frazier. That name from UTSA has fallen in some of my mock drafts a lot lately. But apparently he has the length. He's had some experience, so I'm like, okay, let's see what you got. But anyway, these are some of the things who I would try and look into. And I think, and the name of the game is to build depth. And if you're looking for a wide receiver, you take the best player available. Or I think for tight end, like, we don't know what's going on with Dallas Goedert. If he's going to get released, and if he's going to get cut or traded away. I mean, the Eagles' best options, you probably go for someone like Mason Taylor or
Gunnar Helm. I could see.
I've been seeing. I'd say like Gunnar Helm would be more realistic, but
in the 3rd round probably.
And also another one, Harold Fannin Jr. That
could be a surprise 2nd round pick for you guys, I think.
No, and here's the reason why some people say it would make sense, because one of our offensive assistants, we just hired him from Bowling Green. So it's like there's that familiarity that could happen. I'm like, I don't know, because I would say if I'm the Eagles, your first pick, if you're going to stay at 32, you go best player available, either defensive line or defensive back. Second is round 2 or 3, you go offensive line or tight end. at best. That's what I would go with. But then again, where I'm just speculating, I'm not Howie Roseman. I will never be Howie Roseman. I don't know what the guy is thinking. But hell, if he somehow managed to get Justin Simmons for a cheap deal, I'm like, okay, whatever. Just do something with it.
Mm-hmm. All righty. Well, that's going to be it for us today. Thank you guys for being with us for season 4. Oh my God, it has been a ride.
What a ride.
We shall continue. Thank you guys again. If you guys have enjoyed, please leave us a review at one of the 4 podcast platforms that we host our podcasts on: Apple, Google, Spotify, Pocket Cast, or Rakshak.
We're also on YouTube, so make sure you like, share, subscribe, and we're also on social media on the following platforms: Twitter/X, Instagram, and Threads with the username at NFL Masala 2022, all lowercase, at NFL Masala 2022.
All right, and we're gonna hit you guys with their signature outro. Go Pack Go.
We all we got, we all we need. Fly, Eagles, fly. Take care. Have a good night. See y'all for season 4.